What's up, everyone? It's George from CryptoPotato, and today we're here with Bobby Ong, the CEO and co-founder of CoinGecko. For those of you who aren't familiar, CoinGecko is one of the leading cryptocurrency data aggregators and a major gate to the crypto space if you want to follow all coins in one place. In this episode, we chat about how they operate this giant platform from a country that's not so crypto-friendly and what CoinGecko does to mitigate listing of scam projects that can potentially lead to huge losses for innocent traders. We also chat about NFTs, probably one of the hottest trends of 2021, and Bobby will also share if he sees Bitcoin reaching the coveted 100K price target anytime soon. Stay tuned, and don't forget to subscribe to our channel, smash the like button if you enjoyed the video, and hit the notification bell so you don't miss on any future episodes. Hey, Bobby. Thank you for agreeing to do this and for being here.
Hi. Very happy to be on the show. Yeah.
Let's just start and get right into it. I'm curious to know about what was life for you before crypto and how did you get into crypto?
Interesting question. So I got into crypto in 2013. So that's 8 years ago, and it was shortly after my graduation. So life before crypto was student life. It's just I was basically learning economics in University College London, trying to understand how the traditional financial system worked. I think what was interesting to me, so I spent a lot of time in my university studying the global financial crisis, like the causes for the crisis, and some of the things that I learned was kind of the zero lower bound, which was taught in university back in 2011 or so. And basically it says that there's no way that interest rates can go to negative because if it goes to negative, everyone's going to take the money out of the bank. That was what was taught to me in uni. And clearly that's not true because we've seen interest rates have gone to negative and people still leave their money in the bank. So I think when that happened in 2013 or 2014, I think interest rates started going negative around that time. It started making me really question, like, did my knowledge in economics gone obsolete like that quickly right after uni? Things have changed rapidly. I think I spent a lot of time learning about bank runs as well, a little bit of time bank runs, a little bit of quantitative easing as well. I think the Cyprus financial crisis in 2015 or something like that, I think, kind of really shaken the belief that, bank runs can be prevented by having federal deposit insurance schemes. But back then in 2015, I think Cypriot Central Bank, or I think European Central Bank also, I can't remember which one exactly, said that there is a chance that retail depositors may not get their entire deposits in full. They may have to take a haircut. So just that statement alone, I believe, has broken a lot of trust there is in the traditional banking system, because it's supposed to be an insurance that protects retail depositors up to 100,000 euros or so. But I mean, with an arbitrary statement, like anybody can remove that insurance, and that's quite a big thing, and kind of got me really to get into the crypto space.
And how did you come up with the idea to start CoinGecko? Or is this the first thing you started when you decided to go into crypto?
I mean, after I graduated, I had a job, I did some work and all. I mean, crypto back then was kind of a hobbyist thing, right? Like nobody really, it wasn't as big as what it was today. Like everyone's like talking about it. Like you have Wall Street bankers, institutional guys, central bankers, all understanding. Back then it was kind of a really fringe thing, and it almost seems that the only people in crypto are libertarians and tech nerds, I would say. Maybe I fall into the tech nerd category. I kind of spending a lot of time in tech forums back then, so I kind of stumbled onto the idea of Bitcoin and kind of went down a rabbit hole. But it wasn't a very common thing to do, and CoinGecko was a side project. But at the back of my mind and my partners, my TM Lee, we kind of knew that Bitcoin blockchain technology is going to change the world, just like how the internet has revolutionized the world, like what we see today. And I mean, we were probably too young to kind of participate in the upside of the internet industry, which kind of really had a boom in from the year 2000 onwards. But in the blockchain industry, we're all starting from scratch, and kind of was a right age, I would say, to kind of do something. And so we wanted to start a side project in the space and kind of see where things would be. And I guess fast forward 8 years later, and here we are at CoinGecko tracking the crypto space.
Yeah. We had an interview with you guys probably about a year ago, a written one.
Mm-hmm.
And you told us that scaling was one of the biggest challenges that you faced, facing the growth that you saw. And let's if we fast forward this 12 months into after the interview, I think it's safe to say that nobody expected what happened, this epic bull market and this complete explosion of everything. So I'm curious to know how challenging it was for you to handle because I would assume your numbers also went up. You had to scale as well in the last 12 months alone. So how was it? How was it like dealing with this epic bull market?
I think in crypto is really interesting in a sense that the cycles are it's very volatile industry. When the cycles come in like the bull run like goes insanely bullish, and then the bear market comes by in like 3 years, like nobody's doing anything, for example, right? So during the bear market, it's kind of, I mean, builders like us in CoinGecko, we actually enjoy the bear market because we have the time to kind of slowly build and enhance all our feature. So we have like 3 years to kind of prepare for this, and we thought like, okay, guys, we're ready for the next bull run. But no matter how much we prepare, like we always find that when the bull run comes, like when the bull market comes, like the demand is just so strong that whatever the preparation that we had made and we thought we had made enough, it's just not sufficient because it's just a lot more than what is expected. So this goes for the entire company, right? I mean, the tech stack, the engineering, the operations, support, and so on, the entire stack. I mean, even large companies like Coinbase struggle, right? Their customer support tickets have been, there's a big backlog, even though they were also on the same page, like preparing for this bull market, but everyone's kind of surprised at how fast how large the bull market became, I suppose.
Right. You mentioned something about market cycles, and it's really interesting because if we track the market long back enough, we can really see that it's cyclical. Do you think that this is what we'll see now? Like, if we consider that right now we are in the bullish cycle, do you think that there is a 3-year bear market coming up until the next halving? Or
yeah, so I mean, in my opinion, like I don't know if this 4 year cycle thing is still holding on. I mean, I tend to believe that we will probably still end up in a bear market at some point, and we will need to shake off all the non-believers. But it almost feels to me that the time between the bear and the bull market has shortened considerably. Like it used to take like one whole year for like price to go down 50-70%, but what we've seen is that took place a couple of months ago in just a matter of 2 weeks, for example. And a 50% drop, 50-60% drawdown from Bitcoin's all-time high it's quite significant, and it kind of provides the next I mean, the reset was helpful to kind of enable us to go for the next round. I think there's a couple of changes between the previous cycles as well, in a sense that in the previous cycles, the institutions were not in the market. It was mostly the crypto guys, but now the institutions are in. By historical metrics, like we should already be in a bear cycle by now in preparation for the next halving, but it doesn't seem to be the case at this point in time. So it's really hard to say how things will go. But nevertheless, I think the big milestones to track are always the Bitcoin halving cycle. So one happened last year in, I think, March or May 2020. I can't remember exactly. I think May. And then the next one's probably in 2024, I suppose. So yeah, so it's I don't know. It's hard to say, but cycles have changed because the participants are completely different from what it was previously as well.
Speaking of this, do you think we'll see Bitcoin at 100K anytime soon?
It's really hard to say, right? I mean, I think we may, but I don't know. It's anyone's guess. It's really very hard to make price predictions, and I generally don't enjoy making predictions because most of the time you probably get it wrong. But I mean, who knows? Maybe we will, maybe we will not. I think the last quarter of the year will be pretty interesting to see. Yeah,
because it feels like this is the next major milestone for the cryptocurrency after taking down 50K and 60K. and it almost feels like 100K. 100K is like the next logical barrier, psychological and whatnot. Anyways, let's circle back to CoinGecko. Can you give me a little bit more technicals about how do you guys, for example, like you track so many different cryptocurrency. You must have like thousands of cryptocurrencies on the website. How do you guys track the price, and how do you make sure that it's up to date and relevant so that people can reference this data and use it?
Yeah, so I think that's a couple of phases in the crypto development cycle in the past 8 years. I think historically, most of the exchanges are centralized exchanges. So things like exchanges like Coinbase, Kraken, Binance, FTX is relatively new, but they're centralized.
Yeah.
I think a big shift came about last year where decentralized exchanges started becoming really popular with the rise of Uniswap. I mean, DEXes are not new. They've been around with Kyber, 0x, Bancor, and Ether Delta back in the days, but it was relatively hard to use compared to Uniswap. I think Uniswap was a game changer because it allows anybody to sort of be an automatic market maker. So you don't have to have that order book per se, and you can kind of create all kinds of tokens without getting approval from centralized gatekeepers.
Yeah.
So I think DEXes have kind of changed the game. And when the DEXes became popular, it was kind of a floodgate in the number of tokens that are being traded with any significant volume. And that presented quite a lot of challenges for us at CoinGecko, because historically the app that we have, the backend and all, was kind of written to consume API from centralized exchanges. And we're kind of very familiar with the kind of response, and we do basically a volume weighted average price to calculate and show the prices of CoinGecko to kind of get a global price. Obviously, there's some differences as well. You may argue some exchanges are fiat crypto exchanges, like again, they're trading in the US dollars, Korean won, Australian dollars, for example, but some of them are trading against USDT. But that's kind of one section. Then the decentralized exchanges or the Uniswap and all. So we had to, and when we spoke to Uniswap and all back then, we didn't really speak to them, but we were trying to get the data for Uniswap, for Uniswap, Curve, Balancer, and so on. Like, a lot of them just say, like, just get the data from the blockchain. And then I think it's easier said than done. There's no centralized API. My partner team had to crack his brain on how to track this data. And one of the things that thankfully the graph came out with subgraphs, and then it allowed for a way for us to relatively easily index and consume all this information to put it on CoinGecko. I think we were the first to ride on top of this DeFi wave. We were the first tracker to track Uniswap, Curve, Balancer, and because we were the first, we managed to kind of capture a lot of the long tail for the tokens traded on these AMMs, and that kind of provided trajectory for the next growth of CoinGecko. But yeah, those was two pretty distinct cycles for crypto, and it's interesting seeing how DEXes are becoming more popular. Something that personally I thought it would be a pretty impossible thing to happen, because it's pretty hard to get some people to be familiar with MetaMask and so on. But here we are, everybody's familiar with MetaMask and trading on AMMs, which is a very good thing for the industry.
Building on that, do you think that DEXes are going to get even more popular and more widely used? Because a lot of teams are actually focusing on the user experience side, making it a lot easier for everyone to just hop on the blockchain and transact instead of using centralized parties. Do you think this is a trend we'll see growing in the future?
Yeah. I mean, if you think about it, right, like if you trade on a centralized exchange, you basically only have the liquidity on that exchange itself. So for example, if you trade on Coinbase, you only have the orders that are on Coinbase's liquidity pool. Whereas if you trade on a DEX, for example, maybe not on Curve, but if you use a DEX aggregator like 1inch, Paraswap, or also one of those things, not only do you get the aggregated liquidity pool from Uniswap, but you get the aggregated liquidity pool from Uniswap, Curve, Balancer, and so on. So that, for example, if you were to trade $1 million worth of ETH to USDT or USDC, for example, like a simple question would be like, where would you have a lower slippage and a better execution price? Historically, has always been like the biggest centralized exchange like Binance or Coinbase. But but if you look at the data right now, like you will get a better execution price if you use a DEX aggregator and you split your orders up into multiple different DEXes, and then it returns up the best output for you. So DEXes are good in the sense that you get a global aggregated liquidity pool instead of a fragmented liquidity pool across multiple centralized exchanges. So that's the biggest thing. And in terms of execution, that would be, I would say that it's hard for a centralized exchange to compete against a DEX. I think people also appreciate the fact that there is very minimal KYC requirements on decentralized exchanges.
And being in the middle of all of this, because you gather data from so many different sources, do you see any specific trends related to, for example, trading volume going off centralized exchanges to decentralized exchanges, or switching between the different centralized exchanges? Do you see some particular trends shaping up in this current market environment?
Yeah, for sure. So, I mean, if you think about it, like, it's kind of crazy. Like sometime last year, Uniswap did more volume than Coinbase on some days of the. I mean, if you ask me 1 year ago if there's a DEX that could challenge Coinbase and do as much volume as Coinbase, like I would just say get out of my mind. There's no, it's not possible, right? Like there's no way anybody could do that. But here we are in 2020, 2021, and DEXs are doing more volume than central exchanges, and this will only increase as time goes on.
And it's not just that. Like if you think about it, a year back, maybe like a year and a half back before the DeFi summer on Ethereum, if somebody told you that we would see massive volume on Binance Smart Chain or on Solana, for example, that's kind of crazy to think about how quickly things change in our space. Okay, let's circle back to CoinGecko a little bit, because I think this is something really interesting that a lot of people would be curious to know. How do you guys choose what to add, like which cryptocurrency to add? Is there a vetting process? Is there an application? So for example, if I create my own cryptocurrency, how do I get it on CoinGecko?
Yeah, so there is a request form. It's on coingecko.com/request. So you have to fill up that form with all your token information, the logo, website, and so on. Then what we do is we have a team of people internally at CoinGecko that we will go through every application and to check that listing. And there's a few criteria that we check internally. We don't disclose this criteria because then that will be gamified. So if it meets all the criteria, we just list them on CoinGecko to be tracked.
And security is obviously a big concern in our space. I know that you're a third-party website, but do you vet the projects? I mean, is there a process which tells you like, hey, this cryptocurrency is a scam, we won't list it? Or what happens if you list something and then it turns out to be a scam? Do you have any policies in place to remove cryptocurrencies? Or
so those are interesting questions, right? I guess the fundamental question to ask is, what is a scam, right? How do you define scam? True. So and there's many ways of defining scams. I mean, obviously, if a token is created and then it goes to a contract, a honeypot contract, for example, where you can kind of buy it, but you can never sell back at the right price. That's pretty much a scam, right? Like you can buy at a price, but you can't sell at a price because it takes a 90% hit or it burns 90% of the tokens, for example. So those are pretty obvious scams. But some things like, I mean, some people say Tron is a scam, for example, but where do you draw the line on that being a scam? So that's kind of hard, right? And some projects may seem like, as you said, like started out pretty good, pretty okay, but then later on turn out to be a scam. So yeah, we do have a delisting policy internally. If a project gets, for example, onto any financial regulators watch list, blacklist, for example, that they say like this is a Ponzi or MLM, for example, then they will be removed from our site. So I mean, there's a lot of people trying to take advantage of it. And if we do receive reports, then we'll remove. If we do receive reports from the community about like some of these honeypot contracts, for example, then we try to verify and check with what the community, other people are saying about it, and we kind of remove. Sometimes we put notices as well instead of completely delisting to kind of monitor things. So we receive reports that X has happened, and then we just kind of put it up, and then because it's visited by others, other people may be more cautious when interacting with that contract, for example. or buying the token, or they may just share more evidence with us about how this is not real, and then we may make a judgment call again later on to remove, for example, some of these coins.
Right. Okay, you have a conference, a virtual conference that's coming up in November about NFTs. Can you share a little more details about it?
Yeah, so this November 17 and 18, we are organizing a conference. It's at conference.coingecko.com. It's called GeckoCon, which is basically an NFT conference. So we have basically over 100 speakers that will be focusing on the NFT section. So NFT, as we know, has pretty much taken the crypto world by storm this year. And we thought that it would be interesting to kind of get a bunch of experts in the space and kind of talk about NFT. So this is a virtual conference. It's the first time that we at CoinGecko are organizing a conference. So if you're interested, come by and join us for the conference.
Sure, would love to. What do you think about NFTs, by the way? Like, a lot of people say they're a bubble. A lot of people say they're a revolutionary technology. That's like, there's also a fine line here, because it's not necessarily bad for something to be in a bubble. Bubbles drive a lot of innovation. What's your stance on this? What do you think?
I mean, not going to comment much on the price. I mean, it's very subjective. What is overvalued or what is undervalued? Are punks overvalued now, or are they overvalued in the long term or undervalued in the long term? Who knows, right? It's anybody's guess. I mean, what we know are the facts that there are only 10,000 punks, and there's no many. They want the original NFTs in the Ethereum. How you value that NFT is really in respect to how the other people in the community value that, right? Yeah, in the short term, it could be overvalued, but in the long term, it could be undervalued. And then when you buy and when you sell, and your holding horizon is differs for everyone. But in my opinion, NFTs are really interesting. There is a fundamental way. It provides a new way of tracking things in the crypto space. If you think about it, a lot of the things that we own in the real world, they are actually non-fungible items. Like the furniture that you have at home, the chair, the sofa, they're all a non-fungible item. They are not unique. Most of the items that we own are non-unique, like the stamp that you collect at home, the baseball card, they're all unique items that are not interchangeable, like your monetary notes that you have in your wallets, for example. So I think there's a lot of things that the NFTs can change the world. As the world gets more digitized, we want to own and collect more of these unique items in a digital form. A lot of the things NFTs can represent IPs, copyrights as well, ownership to certain things. And this would be kind of like the foundation towards a world where your land titles and your birth certificates, for example, could be represented as on the blockchain, for example. That's kind of a long way to go, but that's kind of like where we are headed to, I suppose. A lot of things, I think games are very interesting use cases, a very interesting use case. A lot of people are used to paying for game items and spend a lot of time and money on games, but they don't really have any ownership on things. They think they own something in the game, but really they don't really own anything. They just own some IOU, I don't even IOU, some item that the game developers say you own it. But NFTs allow you to have real items in these games that you could, resell them, for example, in a real marketplace. So I think that's a game changer. I view NFT as kind of a Trojan horse for the crypto ecosystem. If you think about the growth of crypto, it started out mostly tech nerds, then the libertarians came in, and then lately, last 1-2 years, you have the financiers, the Wall Street guys coming in with the DeFi rise. But these are all pretty fringe community people. Like, they're not really the mainstream audience that we want in. NFTs are something that the mainstream can easily understand. Like, I mean, a work of art by people that sold for $69 million, for example, that's something that is very easily understandable. And they are parallels with the physical world as well. People can understand a piece of art, a physical art is sold for $69 million. Nobody's going to bet an eye. And you said, yeah, that's the same thing, but in a digital form. And people can start collecting their own small art as well, not $69 million, but like maybe $5 or $60 or whatever. And I think that big NFTs will be the Trojan horse, and a lot of celebrities are also kind of pushing NFTs. And when you kind of own an NFT on Ethereum, you're forced to, for example, have Ether. You have to learn how to use MetaMask, how to use OpenSea, and that's kind of a good thing for the entire growth of the crypto ecosystem.
That's really interesting because like I don't think that a lot of people realize that we're definitely headed to a world which is much more digitized than it is right now. And it makes sense for NFTs to play a part in it. Well, Bobby, I think that was everything. Thank you so much once again for doing this. It was a blast. Can you tell our viewers where we can find you, your social medias? And...
Yeah, so you can follow me at Bobby Ong on Twitter, and do follow our CoinGecko's official Twitter, Instagram at CoinGecko.
Okay. Well, thank you very much once
Thank
again.
you
It
very
was a blast
much.
having you here.
It was great talking to you too.